I hope you don't mind if I multitask a little bit. So I'm going to walk and I'm going to share with you the next step in my journey of reversing symptoms like fatigue and bloating and hair loss and painful periods, which is something I have done and successfully have done for many years and now help other women with. So where we left off in part 1 and part 2 or 1.5, I shared more about like where I came from, what I was doing when I first really realized this was a problem. So go check that out if you haven't seen that. But in this part, I want to share with you the really common pitfalls and mistakes that I made really early on, 15 years ago, when I was trying to reverse those symptoms and reverse my diagnoses of PCOS and symptoms associated with hypothyroidism. So some of my initial attempts at more holistically addressing my health, and at that time, my thought of holistic meant diet and exercise, and I would meditate, which holistic is so much more than that. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do like a deep dive on what it really means to be addressing your health holistically, because I will. But after like doctors had failed me, after other different kinds of health practitioners, acupuncturists, naturopathic doctor, nutritionists, trainers, after all these people had kind of failed me, and what I mean by that is, first of all, results take time when your whole life has been building up to you feeling crappy, to me feeling crappy, which it did and does. But it's like working with people and never really noticing changes, or noticing changes for like a little bit, just a little bit of change. But you had to stay for a long time with something that really didn't suit your life. So I did what I think a lot of us have done, which is I put myself on a vegetarian diet. And I thought like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so great for my body. I'm going to eat so many plant foods. I wasn't the kind of vegetarian who ate a bunch of super processed foods. Also, I feel like being vegetarian 15 years ago was not as popular as it has become, at least in the United States. So it's not like I had a bunch of highly processed foods as an option. So I really did eat a lot of fruits and veggies and eggs and tempeh and tofu. And I even had a healthy living blog called Mind Over Booty. I know, cute, right? And I like shared healthy recipes with other people of like what I was doing while I was on this vegetarian diet. And I thought for sure I was going to see the scale change a bunch. I was going to see my skin change. I was going to see my hair change. Like I was going to be living my best life. And the first like couple of months I had what I lovingly now call the euphoria, the plant-based euphoria, which is when you shift your diet from one with like, especially what I was doing, like a lot of sugar-free, low-fat, right, stuff like that. When you shift your diet from that and you start including more plants and less processed things, a lot of us do have like an initial feeling better. But what happens over time is you deplete your body of really essential nutrients, especially B vitamins, especially enough protein, especially enough nutrient variety, and you start to see your digestion impacted. You actually start to see typically making less stomach acid, which is a problem many of us have. By the way, acid reflux is usually not a sign of high stomach acid. It's usually a sign of low stomach acid. So anyways, I spent years on this vegetarian diet just thinking it was superior, right? And what ended up happening was, as I was monitoring my thyroid labs, things were getting worse and worse and worse. I was losing more hair. I was becoming more fatigued. Oh, I also decided to be a runner then, so I was training for like a half marathon. So essentially, I was putting way more stress on my body because I wasn't giving it the nutrients it needed. I was depleting it of nutrients, and I was adding more stress. As somebody who, by the way, like, I'm just prone to be stressed because of like my upbringing, which I talked about in part 1. And maybe you are too, right? Like, it's just easy for me to experience stress, but also to like hold it in and just be like, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep doing all the things. And frankly, like all the specialists I saw, all the practitioners I saw, they all were like, oh my gosh, you are so healthy. You have such great healthy habits. No, those healthy habits were making most things a lot worse. So one of the first major changes I made when I started educating myself more, when I started going through a program to learn about functional nutrition, was to start eating more animal products again. So I kept the part of my diet that was lots of really colorful plants. So lots of veggies, lots of fruit, lots of healthy fats coming from fruits, coconut, avocado, olives. And I added to that well-sourced animal products, especially, oh my gosh, for me. So I started with wild salmon and chicken because those were kind of the easiest for me to get into and to retrain my body to digest protein. Because if you've been a vegetarian for a long time, and I was for like 6 years, your body needs help like ramping up to be able to digest those foods again. And so having an aversion to them or feeling like, ooh, I don't know that my digestion is the best with those, it doesn't mean you don't need those foods, which is reason number 1 bajillion that I have an issue with the intuitive eating movement. Because if we just listen to our body, sometimes we miss the point because our body can be completely dysregulated and messed up on what it tells us. But as time went on, I also started incorporating grass-fed red meats, and holy cow, pun intended, that turned the lights on in my body. That was a really, really important step, in addition to taking my diet to be more inclusive of those really healthy, nutrient-dense animal products. So that was really important. One thing I also didn't mention was that as a part of my vegetarian diet, I also over time became gluten-free and did a period of time where I was dairy-free and did food sensitivity testing, but I'll talk about that a little bit more maybe in the next video.